meeting to order and have a pledge to the flag. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody. Okay, Kelly, roll call today.
Mark Foltz.
Here.
Mark Frazier.
Here.
Francis Griffin.
Here.
Kelly Schmitz here. Troy Carmen.
Here. Okay. We've got the agenda before you. Do we need to add anything on to it? All good?
You had to add something, didn't you?
Haven't you got two things?
We're just going to talk about COVID-19.
Oh, yeah, that's in the correspondence.
Correspondence. Okay.
What about the site plan for Turks and street lights for the DDA? They're not.
I'll talk about that
Or are you gonna put them on the
during the
agenda?
DDA.
Oh,
There's no action we have to take
So,
on either of those.
I just want to thank the residents of Perry Township for voting, all the township officers, we thank you. We are back for another 4. So Butch thanks you, Mark thanks you, Kelly thanks you, Troy, and I thank you. So appreciate it.
With that, how about we make a motion to approve the agenda?
Oh,
Yes.
and now we'll get back to business at hand. Okay. Troy's made a motion to approve the
second?
agenda
Which
as
second?
presented.
Which seconded it?
Oh, which second?
Butch seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Here with his mask on.
Yeah, right.
He gave a finger, that or he was giving me the finger.
October 7th, regular meeting minutes. You should have those type minutes, which was October 7th, 2020.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Mark's made a motion to approve them.
Second.
Seconded by Butch. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, good. Public comment. John will have your comment later. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Is that okay? Okay. Report. Troy, Sheriff's report first.
Looks like during October, we had 149 complaints, and 25 of them were traffic stops.
Okay.
A lot of animal complaints.
Really?
It was 22. And that's not car deer, they're under separate categories, so.
Well,
Must be dogs or something. Oh, I'm sorry, no,
You're in the wrong
disregard
line.
it, I'm on the wrong line.
Eight complaints.
Hey, 22 were assist to another, sorry.
Okay, that's okay. All right, that's a little excitement on the report.
Yeah, well, I thought that was a bit out of line, that's why I called my eyes.
All right, Mark, see,
Not too much happened. We approved the budget for next year at the last meeting.
okay,
Our other rep for the township of Kobe's had a stroke and he's in the hospital right now. A point of interest is, we just took Durand City a couple months ago in ambulance, and in September there was 53 calls in the city of Durand.
wow. In the
Compare
city,
that to the city of Perry, which is 29, and Perry Township 26, and Vernon Township 30. Vernon was normally the high one, but that's a lot of calls.
So, Durand's a little bigger than Perry, isn't it, but not much.
Oh,
More population.
Right, that's what I mean. But is it, they have
nursing home.
nursing home, that's what it's called, yeah.
Yeah.
So those are good paying runs though, right?
Well, the odds go with you, the more runs you have,
Right, but they're Medicare, which isn't the highest rate, but you'll get paid,
Oh, yeah, well, we base our rates on what Medicare and Medicaid pays, that's what you have to do.
Good.
So anyway,
okay, good.
So it's where our Durand police so far?
yeah, well, there was one council member that was kicking a fuss up, and he was trying to get some people put in on the council in the election, and I don't think any of that happened, did it?
Well,
I know one of the long-term council members lost.
yeah, she was a former mayor, and she lost, there was three running for 2 spots, and the vote count was 368, 366, 365.
Oh, wow.
So the 365 was Amy Rhodey, who was the former mayor, she lost.
City manager.
No,
City manager.
oh, excuse me, Amy, anyway, that,
Right, it's not anything right.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, the one gentleman that's a newbie, He has worked sometimes for our CESA Alliance as an ambulance, an EMT. And Brian Bodge won. He's now a county administrator, but he'd been there 17 years. And the gal that had been mayor, she'd been there longer than that. So, yeah. So that was a big election in Durham. I mean, there was a slate here and a slate here, and they fought it out. So,
But the one guy that was kind of pushing the other side wanted to bring in our back. But he's the only one that's really been having a
Well,
problem.
I mean,
Things are kind of level.
we have good service, and it'll just speak for itself.
yes.
And the fire chief from Durham City is on the CESA board
Oh, he's their rep.
now. Yeah.
Spaniel.
Which is good, that's good.
Yeah, that helps to the communications.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, well, great. Okay, I'll talk about the DDA. We did meet October 21st. We had about an hour and 20-minute meeting. 6 members were present, 3 were absent. Justin Horvath was a guest, Brett Jones was a guest, and the mayor of Cary, James Hubert, was a guest. And we basically went through some old business, talked about the water loop, which we'll talk about a little bit tonight. And they're all for it. Very much supportive of the water loop, the tower, and the city of Perry. The mayor was there to give his support for the project as well. And we talked a little bit about Rose Boulevard. I told them we have an estimate for them at our next meeting on how much it would cost to do some repaving work on that. And then the money in the bank with the DDA as of that night, 10/20/2020, 10/20/2020 was $186,000. So that was the money in the bank. And good meeting, very well responded. 100% of the 6 members that were there were all for the water. Let's see, I think that's all on the DDA. Zoning, we've had some enforcement issues around the neighborhood, around Perry Township. Some on West Lansing Road, one on Rock Road, one on, I'm not sure, I'm not sure where this particular property is. And so we have 5 or 6 issues there. Hopefully, we got a new person named Dave Vincent. Dave Vincent has had a good rapport with Judge Stewart, and he's trying to enact and has asked the judge to allow Friday, 2 hours on every Friday, for them to deal with these complaints, which he's got about 300 in your Shiawassee County area, John.
Yeah.
So because of that, the judge said, sounds like he's going to do that and be a help, because it's getting a little bit out of hand, you know, the cars, the cleanup, the debris, the unsightliness, and we don't want Perry Township to turn into that. We want the next 4 years to be the best 4 years. So that's how that's going with that. What is today? The 11th?
Yes.
We didn't get the mail. We don't
Wasn't
have
It was
it.
May
Well, I know we
3rd.
didn't get the mail today, but we didn't get any updated, so we'll have to see how things are going with the ones that are outstanding and go from there. The neighbors have called, different people have called me, complained about different things, so we need to address the issues as a community. John? As a community, we need to address those issues for sure. Zoning. That's it for zoning. John,
Okay.
you're on.
The enforcement of the zoning for trash around the county and everything will really pick up. We had a long-term employee that retired, and then Pete was able to secure someone in his organization to do that, and we expect that. It's really picked up. And of course, we passed, I'll do this, carbon dioxide will make me sleep. Anyway, but Also, we've changed our enforcement rules. First time's a warning, work out something within, when you do it in 30 days. We have to come back, it could be a $100 fine. If we kind of have to come back again, it would be $500 fine, and continuous $500 fine. Most everybody pretty well says, yeah, I can get it taken care of. Certain things like that. And sometimes it's just things pile up in the backyard or the front yard, and you better get them taken care of, you know. So that gentleman is out every day now. And he'll have them all contacted, and then he has a report for us every month saying how many have been taken care of, who is in the process, so on and so forth. And that'll come also to, I think, each township, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, we get one every month.
Mark heard all this last night.
It's okay.
That's all right. In our last meetings in October, we have decided to hire an assistant finance director. What we have really found out in the last year is that we have several departments in the county that need some help on a daily basis to make sure they get their reports in, get all their finances in a proper sequence so they can be reported timely to the state and also through our budgetary process for the county on a monthly basis. We've had 6 applications, and we've decided we're going to interview 3, and we've had 3 pretty qualified people so far. There may be some more. It's still open for a while. But that person would most likely come to work on January 1st next year. Also, too, is that our budget for this year has turned out to be better than we expected. Of course, the COVID money is approaching $750,000, and there'll be more than that, but it hasn't all come in. And that in the areas of health, homeland security, regular wages for county employees, all areas that money affects. So we're looking at a surplus. We're looking at a surplus of $300,000 to $400,000. We won't take anything from the tax delinquent fund. That has not happened in as long as I've been around, maybe. And then our budget for next year, which we'll present next week, is we show a $200,000 surplus in our regular budget, so we will not be taking any money from the tax delinquent fund again. We're hoping to build that fund up into an area of, right now it's like $12 million. Of that $12 million, 500, 550, 600 is what we call our bank. You know, tax revenue doesn't come in on January 1st of every year. It comes in increments. And so that is, we do not have to borrow money. So we would like to have, you know, close to 20 million in the bank before we would possibly do some more projects in the county activities. So we're real pleased with our budgetary process. Again, our county administrator has a lot of good background, and he's been in city government for a long time. And he said, well, the county government's a lot more to handle than city governments. But I said, well, you have a lot of different elected officials, you know. So anyway, that's worked out pretty good. Also, with the assistant finance director, it'll take a little pressure off our finance director, who sometimes spends a lot of time after hours catching up. Sometimes she's there at the office until 8, 9 at night.
She was still there last night when the meeting started?
Yes, yes. Yeah, when we, And also, all the commissioners that ran were re-elected. There's one new person coming on. His name is Brodeur. He has a financial background. He's retiring in February, which makes it maybe he can be available during the day. Right now, there's only a couple of us that are really on a daily basis available in the day, and that could work out pretty well.
What's his name now?
Brodeur, B-R-O, the guy is Gary, B-R-O-D-E-U-R. And you want on that. Owasso District 2, I believe it's called, District 2. Also too is that we presented a very conservative budget with conservative estimates on revenues for next year. And quite frankly, there's been a lot of activity in Shiawassee County. There's a lot of improvement, I mean, tax revenues. We're looking at 8% increase in, value, taxable value. That could mean quite a bit of money for some townships, and the county, it looks like we'll take in quite a bit.
We'll let you invest in the water system.
Yeah. Well, anyway, also too, some of that big revenue is coming from the solar panel fields. There's going to be another huge field. They're getting it ready now up near the one there north of Durand or northeast of Corunna. They expect more of that. Pays pretty good taxes and they pay pretty good rent, so that probably will be done. I can't think of anything else. I might miss some things. We're still working on MERS in that area. Let me put out this. The question will be, do we stay with MERS for our defined contributions and activity? Do we go with Nationwide, who handles some of our retirement accounts? Or do we research and take over the pension program ourselves and hire the people to run it, and so on and so forth? The cost of running that pension program is really expensive. In 2018, MERS charged us $1.5 million. This year, in 2018, 19 is $1.4 million. And I'm sure that 2020 will be in that same range. We need to take a look at who administrates our pension program, and so on and so forth. There are several counties who have taken it back and run it themselves, and they've had good results.
Is it a percentage, John, or how do they base their fee?
Well, I would have to FOIA. Well, it doesn't, I do know that they charge per group, per closed group, per open group. If we ask for information, we pay. If we have to have any research.
The county has to pay
Oh, yes.
to find out about their own pension
Yeah,
program.
oh, yeah. So one of the main questions I asked, I said, who controls the money? Does Shiawassee County take the money back? Yeah, you can. Well, how that usually works is you form a pension board, employees, try to find a couple really good retired employees who would like to serve on that. You have a pretty sizable board. You find a couple of accountants who don't do business with the county, so to speak, to serve on that board. You'd have to pay them. Then you'd find investment firms to invest your money. That's kind of a quick analogy, but of course we could hire some excellent employees for $1.4 million.
Yeah, right. I mean, what is the county's annual contribution to MERS?
Approximately 880, 900,000, but we're paying $6 million.
So you're writing checks for $6 million a year roughly,
For pensions.
and they're charging $1 million for administration.
$1.5 million. So
That's a pretty good percentage rate.
And the rest is making up.
yes,
what
legacy
you-
costs. See, let me give you some ideas
But
that,
still, that's 15% administration fee. You know, I mean, and I bet they charge the same whether their investments do well or don't.
exactly. I've done my research, I have it all mapped out. And of course, we're going to a system where if we have a pension program for the county employees, that program will be expensed every year. There won't be a legacy cost to the county.
You're talking about it for.
Well, it's like a 401, it's defined contribution.
Right.
And we feel that we're going to present a very good program. Matter of fact, it's excellent, I feel. But it's different. I mean, it becomes the employee's money. You know,
And that's good, John, but when you have the older people and they get the monthly check.
well, you can't,
Just to give, the city of Flint, I was on the pension board at the
okay.
city of Flint for about 6 years, all right? And I can tell you some horror stories. The problem is, John, you gotta be extremely careful on the people that are on that board.
Yes.
Also, when your city is going to become bankrupt or you have an emergency financial manager, they can do things that you can't believe can be done. And the problem is the city of Flint, the pension board realized that the handwriting on the wall, so we swung off to MERS. Thank God we did, because they control the money, not.
The pension.
So anyway, I'm just saying, I've been on both sides of the fence, and I'd rather be on this side of the fence with MERS than on the other side, having been through it for 5 years.
Yeah.
Because I was a union official, and I was
Now,
on the board.
there's hybrids of all those programs.
Well, I'm just,
We've told
be
MERS,
cautious is only my own words.
we've told MERS that that's unacceptable amount of money to pay them. And they're coming back with a figure.
Parks or somebody needs to negotiate that, there needs to be something.
Yeah, I would say so. But I don't mind saying it. I was the first person to bother to look it all up. And I was the first person to figure out what we paid them. And now we have a county administrator, he knows how to do all that too. So we'll make revisions, but again, it's not to affect the employee, it's to affect their future. So our legacy costs are, actually, our legacy cost, what we owed was I gotta think about this a minute, was 114 after 18, 119, those were millions, after 19, and after this year, it's estimated to be 125. That's what we owe. We can't, and we just can't. It's almost impossible.
So, in our system that we have here, which is a defined contribution,
Yeah.
And we're one of the oldest townships that have had this program in our county, at least. I know that. And ours is in lieu of Social Security. So none of our wages,
Yep.
for anybody here, we don't pay anything to Social Security, but none of our wages here count for Social Security
Right.
either, which, and the way Social Security's headed, I'm not sure that's a horrible situation to be. But in any case, our annual contribution is about $17,000 or so, and I think our administrative fee is, it's $500 or $600. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not much, and when you look at our statements, we don't really get any election, to be honest, I don't know how they invested in what it is in, but when we get our statements, it's solid growth. It's a solid, I would say 5 to 7% a year.
Well,
It's never 20% growth, but it's never lost growth.
What they do is 1 year, 5 year, 10 year. 2018, MERS was minus 3.64 in 18. Last year, in 19, they were 7. Anyway, in 19, they were 10.2% growth. 18 was 6.5, and 17 was minus 3.64. In 17, there should have never been a minus 3.64. And then you do the 10 average, the 10-year average is about 7.75. Also what MERS has done, that they kind of hit, that was the figure they anticipated over a 10-year period. They were pretty close to it. But now they're rating things differently, so you owe more money every year.
So how about the bonding?
The bonding.
You guys were gonna go out for bonding?
Well, I'm not for bonding. We can't do bonding. That's paying the third time. We're paying twice now. Because when employees would work, and every year MERS would say you need to make this contribution to the county, we're going back in the 60s right on forward. Many years that contribution was correct, or more. But when things got really bad, contributions went down. So that's when you ended up with legacy funds. So all those years, all those commissioner boards didn't put enough money in for good years, bad years, over average, and then the average. Then what happened is we have legacy costs, we have people retired.
They live longer.
Well, that's supposed to have been factored in. It was, you know.
Well, that's what actuary tables are for.
That's right. The actuary tables were probably right, and the county sometimes over the last 50, 60 years didn't put enough money in some years, and it really affected it. If we bond for it, let's say we bond and we need $44 million tomorrow. If we bond, but if we bond, all the previous retirement programs end. Period. You can't bond with any programs in place. You have to go to defined contribution mandatory. And some counties have done that. And it's worked. All the labor unions and everybody, they all got together and said, it'll go broke and bankrupt the county, so we better raise the money. So if you bonded like $44 million, and let's say your rate right now is pretty good. Your bonds, I don't know what they sell for, but let's say you can sell those bonds for 4 or 5% for municipal bonds. And you had to pay back, let's say, $3 million over 20 years a year. That's, you know, with interest, for the sake of argument, that's $60 million. That's doable. But again, we're paying the third time, because we're paying the second right now. If we're donating every year $800,000 to $900,000 for current employees, and then we're donating another $5 million a year for former employees, and then we bond the whole total, and then we still are paying for current employees. In that scenario, I've been told the current employees are the one who really get whacked the most, because your county cannot offer as generous a pension program. Well, all that can be worked out and planned out. But that is the thinking. I mean, we're thinking in broad terms, and we really have to do something. Well, the Treasury is ordering us to do something.
Well, I mean, the combination with the 401k is it's a current match. I mean, traditional 401k is, I've never had one, it's like, what, 3.5% or, you know, depending on how you negotiate, but I mean, it's a pay as you go, so there's no legacy cost, but you do have to pay.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to pay now.
Yeah.
And,
So the last time you were here, though, you guys had talked about bonding.
Yes. Yeah, and you still could.
And since then, the board has decided
No,
that it's
the
not
board,
a good idea.
the board has not decided anything. We've
We're just
actually,
discussing all these issues.
yeah, we've discussed all these solutions with MERS and hybrids. We've discussed the solutions with Nationwide and internally, and now we're going to discuss what other counties do if they take over the pension program. Again, Mark, you bring up a very good, we'd have to have a solid pension board. All meetings have to be open to the public, of course, and also everything, all decisions would have to be co-ratified by the Board of Commissioners. I mean, if they make something. There's a lot more to that than what I even explained, what you and I just went over. But it's very interesting.
Yeah.
But
and the fact of the matter is if MERS knows you're shopping around, they may, well, but they, I mean, you know, sometimes, you know, 10% may be better than 0%.
now,
You know.
if we go to a new, let's say, defined contribution, and let's say the county puts in the first 4%, if the employees match, then if they put in 3% or 4%, we add another 4% for a 12% a year. It's something like that. That would be defined contribution. That money, Nationwide and MERS both came in and said they would administrate those monies for 4% of the total. I said, no, you won't. There won't be any percentages. It has to be a dollar amount. And they looked at me and they already knew that. I mean, eventually that defined contribution would build up just like the defined benefit program with 100 million. I mean, yeah, I'd do that 4%.
See, that's what I say about ours here, it's a flat fee per employee.
That's right.
And there's a, when somebody surrenders it, it's just a flat fee per employee.
Yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to discuss it with you because it's very technical, but I want you to know that there's a bunch of us commissioners who are working on that, and we're trying to work out logistics. We've already discussed this with several elected officials and the court system, and they're saying we need to do something. We'll have some alternative to discuss.
Real quick with it, I don't want this to take forever, but how does the court system's pension work? In terms, because I know the judges, I mean, they're not totally funded by the county, the state funds some of it. But are they true county, I mean, are the judges county employees?
Yes, they are. Yes. Half of their pay comes from the county, half of their pay comes from the state.
But they are, but at the end of the day, you're responsible for their legacy costs and everything
For
else.
half of it, and they have it all gets mixed.
So
For them.
it's half and half, 50/50.
So the state, I mean, the county can change, so each county can have a different program and the state just pays whatever, portion of it is?
Yeah. Yep, so, I think that's pretty
It's gonna
much
be
it.
a nightmare to keep track of it. This.
Well, again, the courts are their own branch of government.
Right.
They have all sorts of rules that they go by.
Thanks, John.
I,
Appreciate it.
if anything else, any other
Was
questions?
there anything else you talked about last night other than what you didn't go into this detail, of course?
Well, this is a big thing for the county.
Boy,
I mean,
it
this
is
is,
huge thing.
Oh,
particularly for somebody that's more my generation, I mean, this can become a nightmare. And we're gonna have a nightmare at this at a federal level too.
it's coming.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
We're just trying to make sure that we can honor our pensions or contractual arrangements that we've had. And with our employees, that is the game plan. I mean, if Shiawassee County boomed and our tax revenues skyrocketed, we could cover our legacy costs. See, this last year it was 6 million, next year 8 million.
How many retirees roughly?
Okay, we have 367 active retirees.
Okay.
We have 384 inactive but not retired employees. We have people that might have worked for us 10 years, took a job somewhere else.
Sure.
They're not eligible yet,
They haven't started growing.
but it isn't like a full pension for most of those.
They were vested, but they're not
Right.
55.
And then we actually have in the system, this includes Pleasant View Medical Care Facility, does not include the road commission. They have their own plan through MERS. 485.
Okay.
And there's a lot of employees at Pleasant View. Yeah.
SCOLA is part of that right now. SCOLA?
SCOLA is not part of our system now.
Not now, okay.
No. They have their own millage and they have their own budget and all that sort of thing, yes.
So we're approaching the same number of retirees that we have current
Yeah,
employees.
it's almost 1 to 1. Yeah. Yep. Now,
And that problem's only gonna get probably
Yeah.
worse,
it does in a way, but we're a lot smaller employee base for county employees, other than Pleasant View, than we ever were, for 40 years.
Right, well, that's gonna make that ratio isn't gonna
Yeah.
get better as,
But like the three biggest plans, and really, our law enforcement plans are kind of the biggest, but we have a couple plans where the average age of those people are 74.
Well,
I mean, think about that amount. So, you have a retiree, he has a wife or a husband, and, if one passes, then they get the program. So, our cost will come down, but it's always slow, as people pass away.
right.
And, we don't cheer when somebody dies, come on. Anyway,
But that's
Yeah.
the way that,
but those costs will come down, but it's gonna take a while. It's a slow process. Yeah.
and the cost each year goes up and up and up.
like I said,
8 million, yeah.
I mean, that's what we're supposed to pay, we're negotiating that.
Thank you, John.
Yeah.
Any questions for John? No? Okay. Mark, talk about the library.
Well, they've also approved their new budget.
Okay.
It was necessary to do because of their fiscal year as a calendar year.
I see, sure.
They're looking at a lot more technology, like in the app stores and stuff like that, because of, they've been having to do all their programs virtually and so forth, and they still do their library board meetings as a hybrid. They are still in court on that inheritance trust fund money, O'Berry money. There's $98,000 still outstanding. I don't know why the judge is dragging that out. That's been going on 4 years.
Wow.
But,
Really?
yeah. So, and there's an opening at the Perry Library for a job, because the
Saw that.
person there retired. So it's been pretty much they're, kind of running as normal, but the COVID thing is created some
Issues.
upheavals for their programs and stuff.
Okay, I understand that. Okay, thanks. Moving on to Troy, I-69 trade.
We did not meet in October. The plan is to meet in December.
Okay. All right. Mark, SEDP.
Well, SEDP, we haven't been really having regular programs because there again, we're a hybrid meeting. We have examined, and I think we're going to vote on a resolution this next meeting as to the making sure that the votes taken during those hybrid meetings are legal.
Oh,
Because we're not a government body per se, and we wanted to make sure that
it's appropriate.
they were
You just have
appropriate.
to make sure your corporate bylaws,
Right.
are clear on that, because you're not a public body, you're just a private nonprofit.
So that was kind of the important thing. We've actually been running pretty good money-wise. Most of the people that contributed have been contributing. There has been 2 or 3 that are struggling for, reasons because of this, and we're not going to force anybody, but most of the people have been paying on time, and actually our receivables are in pretty good shape. And that being said, we have a couple of investment accounts of money that we have that we invest in, and we've been looking at switching that stuff around. There was a big change, and there's somebody local in Owasso that takes care of a lot of the investing for people, and they have now changed, and they're in the offices that were made in that restaurant. They used to be Lefties years ago,
Right.
and I don't remember what their names are.
Well, Good's one of them. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know him.
So they're, but that's basically what we're doing, is we're just, and what John said a few minutes ago, Justin is getting a tremendous amount of interest in the Shiawassee County area, and we're getting quite a bit of it from Detroit region and some from the Lansing region. But the Detroit region, we're getting quite a bit because people from outside of the state start with calling the Detroit regional group.
Sure.
Because they know Detroit's in Michigan, and
But they refer it up to.
they refer it up when it doesn't fit me in the city.
Sure.
And frankly, right now, if we had 3,000 or 4,000 or 5,000 square foot buildings in Perry Township, you could probably fill them. That is, there's a lack of available space. It isn't just in Perry Township either, it's pretty much across the county.
And we moved to the planning commission, Mark. We're still on.
Planning Commission, we didn't meet last month.
But you're going to meet this month, right?
we're gonna meet this one.
Got a couple issues to talk about, right? Okay. Troy, financial report and pay the bills.
All right, you got your bills list in front of you. So we did have, you'll notice on there, we did have the website bills, and one of those is our annual hosting, which we pay every year. The other one was for the upgrade, and so that came in with what we had discussed, so that's why I broke those apart there. We had our election expenses. The highlight, I guess, is our fourth revenue sharing check for the fiscal year came,
Where's that?
beginning of the second page, $59,773. That's the largest revenue sharing check that's ever been since I've been here.
Really?
So,
Okay.
Well, I'll report on that.
I mean, we've been shooting all over the place of what revenue sharing is gonna do, and, you know, we were spooked with these 50% drops and everything else. And we were down at our last one, but if you look at our budget to date, we have had 4 of the 6 checks for the fiscal year have come in so far. So on our budget line, we're at 67.1%, so we're right where we need to be. You know, so provided that everything holds up, you know, for our January 1st and our March 1st checks, which, keep in mind, that's delayed, you know, how do I say this? So the check we just got, was November 1st, was for sales tax collected in, what, July and August. Because it's delayed, you know, it's sales tax collected in July and August is the check we just got. So we'll see what transpires here, you know, going forward. Obviously, there are some economic signs right now that are, you know, not particularly the best, so we'll see how that
I'll
transpires.
make a motion to approve the bills as Troy presented.
Second.
Seconded by Mark. Roll call vote. Helen, you're ready.
Mark Foltz.
Yes.
Mark Frazier.
Yes.
Brandon Strickland.
Yes.
Kelly Schmidt, yes. Ray Carmen.
Yes.
One comment too about the, one of the election supplies.
Okay.
The state is giving $200 per precinct reimbursement, and I just submitted that today, so we should get
Great.
$600 to buy a cabinet that we needed for the election.
The check's in the mail.
Yeah.
Well, that was good. Kelly designed, it was her design, I don't know if she copyrighted it, but the cabinet didn't really meet our needs. She designed it so that it's locked,
that's
and
the
it
mail
has
slot.
an issue that when they put the mail or the ballot in the box, nobody can get to it. It is a sealed unit, hermetically sealed, and only opened by the key of Kelly. So it worked out real well. It really did.
I kept trying to keep it, but yes.
Anyway. So that was that deal. But if she copyrighted it, she probably fixed it.
No, but yes, this was CARES Act money that the
It was.
state's reimbursing back to precincts.
Right.
All right. Correspondence. Sandy and McCauley wrote a letter to the Senate, the state of Michigan,
To our senator.
our Senator Tom Barrett, and Sandy did that because of some meetings she had been in the planning commission work, and it had to do with
It had to do with
input with the mining operation.
Correct, there was a proposal to change and preempt local authority on new sand and gravel mining operations, and our senator happens to be chairman of that committee. And so it was our planning commission expressing concerns about that, which MTA has been very concerned about it too.
And I physically have talked to Tom Barrett about it also, and Ben Frederick.
So-
there's a lot of effort going into trying
There
to.
was a lot of lobbying going on by the gravel industry. Of course, they don't like local control rules. You know, they want to plop a gravel pit, they want to plop a gravel pit. And they were lobbying the state on that. Well, our problem with fixing the roads is we can't mine gravel anywhere, and that runs up the costs, and, you know, and they had this big report that said that was the problem, and then it got caught that the report was, let's say, not totally honest, and got skewed by the gravel industry. MDOT had prepared this report saying this, basically, this was a problem, and then it turns out the aggregate industry helped fund it, and, you know, so it's kind of a big mess. There's a real concern this could move in lame duck, you know.
So, and the MTA, they supported this too, I think.
They're opposed to change preemptive local control. They're in the same favor
They're
as
on
we do.
board, yeah.
But again, this is one of those things, all of a sudden, in lame duck, this could
Right.
be done.
Right. And the second correspondence I got was from our Consumers Energy. The person's name is Christian Greenwood. And she, good morning, Mark. I received a request on the new street lighting along the corridor. Joel briefed me on it, and they're working on the installation of the steel pole quote, and I thanked her for that. They were only going to do it from Dollar General to Roost Road. I said we were going to quote from M52 West to Signature Ford, and so that's what they're working on. And I put one of those in the box. So this came after our DDA meeting, so I just thought I'd let you know. And sent members of the DDA that too. So they're working on it. They are working on it full speed ahead on that. Okay. The other thing was Troy, public comment announcements, COVID-19.
What was I talking about? Oh, I think we were just gonna summarize that we're in full compliance of the new MIOSHA regulations, and we do the temperature check and all the other crap.
Yeah. And then we identify our workplace COVID coordinator. Again, Kelly is our coordinator, and she makes sure that when people enter the door that they've got their mask on, and they get the temperature taken, and they fill out their form, and move on. And you've not had any confrontation with it either, really.
I'm forgetting what people look like.
It used to be.
Time to start robbing banks.
Okay. Any other public comments? Unfinished business. Okay. Giving a water extension update and water extension grant.
So anyway,
Troy and I
yes.
met with the city of Cary Friday.
Yes, Friday, we met with Justin and Brent were there, and we met with the mayor and the mayor-elect and the DPW director to go over that. Everyone should have a copy of the engineering plan that is necessary to apply for the EDA grant that we split costs on with the city of Cary. There was one revision made about the size of the proposed water tower. It was revised down a little bit just because of some engineering concerns that the city had and stuff. Other than that, you know, it lays out the estimated costs and everything. We have in front of us a resolution of support of the application. This is so that the SEDP the SEDP's court, you know, they're writing the grant application. And so at our meeting, we went through a lot of the details, Mark and I did, and got them the information they needed. So this would be a resolution for us of support of the grant. Obviously, you know, this supports us doing the grant. At the end of the day, we could reject it, you know, if it came back and the matches weren't right or anything, we're not hogtied to this by any means. I mean, it's not a done deal till it's a done deal, but this says that, you know, we have, you know, local match money available, and of course we had the money from the sale of our water property, which we have earmarked for this. The LDFA has funds and our DDA has funds, you know, and this is what the DDA was created for. That's what all these entities were created for. So this would just be support to go ahead and get the application in, and that we authorize the supervisor and clerk to sign any necessary documents. Obviously, again, we are, you know, until it's been approved or anything, you know, we aren't
Committed.
committed.
This is to apply for the grant.
Right.
Can we write the check for $330,000?
Today?
Well, I mean, with the DDA money and the LDA.
Oh, with the DDA money.
Sure. We can cover it. Okay.
And like Mark and I discussed, you know, this will be
At least
a 2-year project, and of course the DDA will, you know, have more revenue coming in there, and we have to see what the MEDC match is, and, you know, I mean, if it came down to it and the township board had to allocate, 20 or 30 grand out of the general fund for a couple of years, it's not what we want to do, but if we have to.
No parking lot.
Well, but, I mean, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity, probably. So, I mean, that is not the plan at all, but,
And last month we talked about.
and that's the city of Perry's proposal too, because part of it, in here is adding to a new well in their field and everything, which of course they would be responsible for that match money, and that's the same thing that the confluence of it said is, if we can get an 85% grant, we have to do that, The costs probably aren't gonna go down, but to answer your question, between what we have set aside in the DDA, yes, we could write that check.
So I make a motion that we,
Any questions? Butch, okay. Go ahead.
make a motion we approve the resolution.
Mark's made a motion to approve the resolution as Troy outlined. Okay, Butch seconded. Roll call, vote, Kelly.
Mark Frazier,
Yes.
Mark Foltz, or,
Yes.
sorry. Francis Griffin, sorry. Did you say yeah? Francis Griffin?
Yes.
Kelly Schmidt, yes. Ray Parmalee?
Yes.
Mark Foltz?
Yes.
I had too many MFs in
I see.
The county's probably got that just in loose change in the courthouse floor, John.
Every meeting, yes,
Shake it, shake it. Jingle, jingle,
every
jingle.
meeting, yes.
Okay. When we come up for air, when Kelly comes up for air, we're going to talk about our website update. If you, the general public, if Perry, citizens of Perry Township want to go on the website, it's new. It looks nice, it's presentable, and we are working the bugs out, but it looks very, very nice. And Kelly wants to talk a little bit about that now.
That's it, that's all I needed right there. It's up and running, I've updated it,
It's fine.
You can update it easily.
yeah, it seems to be fine. It does take a little bit of time, I did update it, and Mark went in there and said, this date's not right, and I'm like, I looked at mine under the admin, and it was changed, but I think it takes a little bit of time to work. So.
Okay.
Yeah, sometimes you always have to read, sometimes you have to clear the browsing history and stuff, for it to come up.
So, yeah,
Very good.
it seems to be
Very
good.
I mean, the problem is our old theme was outdated and it couldn't be, there's things that weren't working right and stuff. I mean, that base theme was almost 15 years old, so,
That's a long time.
for a website.
Yeah. All right. So the third item on unfinished business is election statistics, Kelly. Election statistics.
So I just wanted to give you a little rundown of our numbers for our elections. We had a 72% voter turnout for this election. We went from 250 permanent absentee voters to 885. We sent out 1,219 ballots and received 1,193 back. We had in precinct 1 in-person voting of 539 and in precinct 2, 642. I pulled the numbers to see how many registered voters we increased from January to November 3rd. We had 413 new registered voters.
Wow. How many of them came November 3rd?
What? To register to vote? I registered 26 people on election day.
On election day.
26 new people.
And they may have just moved, they were new to us, right?
Well, they waited till the last minute.
Right, but I mean, they may have voted somewhere else previously.
Maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah, so we had a couple.
but we had people come in their 50s and 60s, never voted in their life.
90s.
Really?
One
Never voted in their life.
Yeah,
I mean, it's amazing.
so it was very busy,
But it was very
but
organized.
we made it.
Very organized.
Well, I was amazed when I pulled in here and it was about 5:30, maybe 5:45, and there was no line on this side, and on that side, they were down in the parking lot.
Most of the day.
And most of the day, as someone who has to vote on that side, I waited over an hour in line.
Huh.
So,
Well,
And that's a more complicated side, because on this side, it's all just one ballot, it's all Perry schools, where on that side, we've got Parish schools, more schools, and village. So you
A
have,
little more
precinct 2 actually has 3 precincts within it. There's 2A, 2B, and 2C. So it's just a little more complicated.
Okay. Thanks, Kelly. All right, the fourth thing on our unfinished business, road project update. And I talked to Brent today because I didn't really have anything typed out, and I wanted to be able to present the board with, Troy and I got together and discussed it with, who's our,
Henry,
what's his name?
Henry,
Yeah, with Henry, and we talked about, and Troy and I feel that the Lock Road, N52, that area needs to be looked at because it's probably our worst road in our county, and in our township, maybe not in the county, but in the township. And one of the problems is that road doesn't touch anything to get a better price on anything that the county may be doing. So we're going to get a price on Lock Road, chip sealing from Lovejoy to the north of the curve, and at the curve, we're going to do the scratch course chip seal. It's easy for me to say, right? And that'll be, of course, the more expensive.
basically, so normally in December, they give us this, you know, they have their annual meeting, they give us this list. They're not gonna have that meeting this year because of
That's true.
the world we live in. And so, you know, we'll be sometime in the next one getting our folder, and then if we desire for them to come and, like what they normally do in our January or February meeting, they're not going to do it automatically because they're not traveling together and stuff, but one of them will come to the meeting.
Yeah. Or two of them.
Basically, at the long and the short is, what Brent was thinking is we have coming up in the future, they're going to be doing their county-wide project down Morris Road in, what is that, 2023 or 2024?
Maybe, yeah.
And then the year after that is planned to be Beard Road also. Of course, Brenton Road's been hit, and Bath Road. You know, there's kind of a plan laid out for our major thoroughfares, and we were able to cover the Beardsley when we, you know, did the Brenton and stuff. So we're kind of getting down to that piece of Lock Road is by far our worst paved road in the township. And so,
It's worse than Roots next to Signature Board.
probably not, but nobody drives that piece of road. But, you know, and so, you know, he mentioned that this year, and so we don't have a price on that. If we end up doing this and that next year, that will probably be our only project, other than maybe a little bit of gravel, because that's gonna be expensive.
Yeah.
So, but, you know, we're not deciding anything till our budget in February, but Mark just wanted to give you,
Just a heads up. And
you know,
also,
they price some gravels and stuff, but like I said, if we end up doing that Lock Road project, that would eat our entire budget.
and the DDA wanted me to check
On Wild Roads.
Rose Kilometer, so we're going to get a price on that. And then as far as the gravel moving around to the different gravel areas, and Miller Road from Bruce Road to 52, that'd be a cost share with Bennington Township, and I've talked to him about it, and depending on how things go, we may be able to do that. And then the other one was Lovejoy from Munch to N52.
There's a lot of little gravels, none of those are emergencies, and like I said, if we decide to do that Lock Road, that's gonna eat our budget.
So that's for your file. Okay.
But like I said, there's no other road that touches it, so there's never gonna be, you know, and we, like, thinking forward, when they do Morris Road, a logical one to be able to piggyback on is gonna be Ellsworth.
Yeah.
You know, here, and when they do, you know, Beard Road, maybe the other part of Beardsley, you know, 5 years down the road and stuff, but that Lock Road one, nothing's ever gonna touch it, so.
Okay. So that's information purposes only. New business, Kelly, we want to get snowplow bids, so I helped her with it since she was doing the election. And we contacted 5 different people. One of them does Bennington Township, and he lives over in Lanesboro. He didn't quote. He's out of his area, I guess. And then Davis, one downtown, and Perry, he didn't quote. And we do have 3 quotes. One from the one gentleman that does it now, Godfrey. We've got one from the gentleman that mows for us, Rescue Me Lawn Care, and then the other one is Suggett Construction in Lanesburg, and he actually knows what's Mike Green real well, and so I took him to the cemetery area, so we drove that to make sure he understood exactly what Kelly wanted, the staking, and then the pipeline, and where to put it, where he couldn't. Mike specifically, there's certain areas he can't put the snow because he needs to be able to access his dirt and stuff like that. So anyway, those were the quotes. Kelly, you want to talk about them? Was there anything that stood out to you other than we all kind of think the rescue meet might be a little bit on the high order?
Yeah, we did request that whoever decided to do the cemetery would actually stake the drives, because we were having issues with stones being pushed and hit, that kind of thing, so. One thing that is noted, let's see, Suggett said that he would stake it. If he doesn't have enough stakes, he would go and buy them, whereas Rescue Me is charging us $400 to mark everything and purchase the.
I think rescue me is way too high. I mean, it's between the other two.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, I've got we've all got experience with Bob Creek, you know, what his job. Kelly had expressed a little bit of concern in the cemetery. Suggett, I'll be honest with you, he's done work for me before, actually, for the last 2 years, he does my driveway very timely, and never had an issue. He doesn't mess up my lawn, and I have, he's a roofer by trade. His dad is a roofer in Lynchburg. He's a roofer by trade. He's branched out in the last 2 or 3 years, and he's very interested in the business, and I'm sure he would do a good job. I do know that Bob Fried's insurance proof has been provided. It does expire next month, in November, or this month, so he'll have to re-up with that. But anyway, that's all I got.
Well, Bob has expressed that he's going to retire out of doing this pretty soon, didn't he say?
What did you say? Bob what?
I thought Bob said he was going to quit snowplowing pretty soon. I thought that you mentioned that.
You wouldn't have submitted a bid if it wasn't. No, I don't think that.
Stowgate do any other municipalities?
No, I didn't ask. There's 2 of them, him and another gentleman.
He's cheaper on the hall, a little more on the cemetery. Salting, they're the absolute same.
Salting's the same, 75, yeah.
Where is he cheaper on the hall?
60, 65, and Bob's 80.
Right, and they're both 100, well, I see, wait a minute, on the cemetery. Okay. Cemetery's 100.
Cemetery's 40 and he's 100.
What I told on the telephone, I did talk to Bob Freed, and I left a message that we wanted, instead of charging how he used to charge, which was
By the hour.
by the hour.
Which is how we had been at
We
that
didn't want an
time.
hourly rate. Would he give us a contract price? You know, each time he did the haul, how much would it cost? And I said the same thing to all 3 of them. And the cemetery, how much would you charge? Because there may be times we don't want the cemetery done, but we need the haul done. So this is
We always do the hall, we don't do the cemetery unless we have.
this is why we did it. And so, yeah. So anyway, what's the pleasure of the board? Butch, what's your thoughts?
I just listened to everybody.
Okay.
You talked about free, and everybody seemed to be impressed with him. I'd rather go with him.
Okay, Mark.
I wasn't impressed with Bob, so.
You see, we're not. Okay.
He never plowed by the front entrance to the building correctly, and put a pile of snow in the middle all the way out to the center.
Okay. Kelly?
That handicap spot.
Got it. Okay. Kelly?
I'm concerned about the cemetery.
I'm sorry, what?
I said I'm concerned about the cemetery.
I understand.
Out there.
And that's why we wanted to bid it this year.
Right.
Troy?
Whatever we want to do, doesn't make any difference to me.
All right. I'm going to make a motion that we go ahead with Suggett Construction this year for 1 year only, not to exceed whatever, Troy,
That's the rate.
not to exceed a certain amount maybe? Or we just,
No, it's-
based on the rates.
I don't know how much it's gonna snow this year, unless
So
you
we're
do.
just based on the amount.
Pray it doesn't snow and it'll be the best.
Troy gave me the cost.
Yeah, we don't spend that much on
$1,000
snow blowing, but I mean,
Okay.
sometimes we do. I,
So I'll make the motion that we approve his estimate 1011 as presented.
Second.
Second. Any discussion, any further discussion?
Gotta do it by.
yeah, you gotta do a roll call.
Roll call vote, Kevin.
Francis Griffith,
Yes,
Kelly Schmidt, yes, Troy Carmely,
Yes.
Mark Foltz,
Yes.
Mark Frazier.
So Mark, you'll notify
I'll
the successful and the unsuccessful ones.
come in tomorrow and email. Yep.
Well, you need to let the other two know.
And I'll do that, yeah, I'll do that, sure. Yeah, because rescue me, he does a good job on our.
He did a very good job, and I was hoping he would be competitive because he does such a good job, but
He does.
very expensive.
Okay. Drains at large, Troy, you've got.
Okay, so we, you should have gotten in your box, our annual drain at large contribution. You did not. Did you get one, Butch? Stand by.
Counting 4?
2. So anyway, this is our annual drain at large contribution for our portion of drain work on the county. We don't, it is what it is, we have to pay it. So it's, as soon as Mark, or $4,221 is our local contribution, and then what's being assessed to the taxpayers is $44,975.10. The largest portion is the looking glass, which is, this will be the third year of that one, and that is on almost every property in the township, but there's a few in the southeast corner that aren't in there. They're in the Red Cedar watershed, but, so that's been a major project that's gone, and it's an inter-county board with Clinton, Hingham, and Livingston. All with us, Craft aren't here, and it was me, so anyway. So other than that, I'll make a motion, we approve the drain at large.
Second.
Motion been made by Troy, seconded by Mark. Roll call vote, Kelly.
Kelly Schmidt, yes, Troy Carmely.
Yes.
Mark Foltz.
Yes.
Mark Frazier.
Yes.
Francis Griffith.
yes,
And we're having Friday at 10 a.m. at the drain office. We're having our meeting in the Looking Glass River in Tony's office. I'll be there. Any more public comments? Any more discussion? I guess we need a motion to dismiss or adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All right, second